Hello everyone, this is the sixth part of the chapter, benzene and substitute benzenes. And in this part of the chapter, we are going to talk about nomenclature of disubstituted and polysubstituted benzenes. Okay, the relative positions of two substituents on a benzene ring can be indicated by using prefixes such as ortho, meta, or para. But you can also use numbers. Ortho position is 1, 2 position on a benzene ring, whereas meta is 1, 3 and para is 1, 4. Okay, now let's do some exercises here. Okay, so here's a structure which has two bromines on a benzene ring. Okay, and you can give the numbers for it: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the two bromines are in first and second position. So it's actually called as 1, 2 dibromobenzene. But you can replace this 1, 2 with an ortho position with a name ortho, and you can write it as ortho dibromobenzene as well. So both are right names. Okay, when the two groups are in the 1, 3 position, this is actually called as meta position. So this compound right here is actually 1, 3 dinitrobenzene or meta dinitrobenzene, or it's also called as meta dinitrobenzene. And this compound right here has two chlorines, but they are in 1, 4 position. So as you can see here, if you number it, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 1, 4 dichlorobenzene, or you can also call it as para dichlorobenzene. Okay, now the next thing is, if two substituents are present, okay, if two different substituents are present, how are we going to name them? First, we need to list them in alphabetical order, and then the first mentioned group should always be at position 1. Okay, so let's do some examples here. So this is actually chloro group, and this is iodo. So you're going to list them according to the alphabetical order. So chloro is going to come first before iodo. So this should be assigned number 1. So 1, so you go in this direction because that's going to give the lowest possible number for iodo. So 1, 2, 3, and therefore it should be named as 1 chloro, 3 iodo benzene. Or you can also call this as meta chloro iodobenzene. Both are right names. Okay, one more problem. So here you have a nitro group and a bromine on the benzene molecule. So where would you start the numbering from? Okay, obviously B comes first, B comes before N. So this is going to be number 1, 2, 3. And therefore it's going to be 1 bromo, 3 nitro benzene. Or you can also call this again as meta. So instead of writing as the whole meta, you can also use just the first letter, which is M, bromo nitrobenzene. Okay, and let's look into the third example. Here you have an alkyl group. That alkyl group is specifically ethyl, and you have a chloro group. You have a chlorine on the benzene. So how are we going to name this one? Obviously C comes before E, so this should be assigned number 1. So and you needed to reach the substituent with the lowest reach the second substituent with the lowest possible number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and therefore it's going to be 1 chloro, 4 ethyl benzene. Or you can also call this as para chloroethyl benzene. Next, if one of the substituents can be incorporated into a name, then that name is used as the used, and the incorporated substituent is given the given position 1. Okay, so in this structure right here, we know that this part of the molecule is actually called as benzaldehyde. Okay, so by default, it is this carbon right here is assigned number 1. Okay, and therefore this should be number 2. The chlorine should be at position number 2. So the name for this compound is 2-chlorobenzaldehyde. Okay, what about this one? Okay, we know that this part of the molecule, when you have an amino group on a benzene molecule, it's actually called as aniline, right? So, and therefore this is going to be para-nitroaniline, because the nitro group is on the 4th position with respect to the amino group. So let's try to name this one. So here is going to be number 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Therefore this should be 4-nitroaniline, or it can be para-nitroaniline, or it's para-nitroaniline. Okay, now let's go on to the next one. What is this? What's the molecule? What's the name of the molecule when you have a OH group on a benzene ring? It's actually called as phenol, right? So the OH is going to assume position number 1, and the ethyl group is going to be position number 2. And therefore the name for this molecule is 2-ethyl phenol, or you can also call it as orthoethyl phenol, because they are in ortho position, which is a 1-2 position. Okay, next, last one. When you have a methyl group on a benzene molecule, it's actually called as toluene. This part right here is toluene. Okay, so just for toluene, you're going to call it as methyl benzene. You're not going to use the name toluene. Okay, that's just an exception. Okay, so this is going to be number 1, okay, 2, and 3, and it's going to be 3-bromo methyl benzene, and you can also call this as meta bromo methyl benzene. Okay. Some disubstituted benzenes have incorporated names. Say for example, when you have an amino group and a methyl group on this same benzene molecule, it's actually called as toluene. And because they are in the 1-2 position, it's called as orthotoluidine. Okay. When you have 2 methyl groups on the benzene, it has got a special name. It's actually called as xylene. And when they are in the 1-3 position right here, 1, 2, 3, they are in 1-3 position, so it's actually called as metaxylene. If they are going to be in the 1-4 position, you call it as paraxylene. Okay, when you have an OH group and a methyl group on the benzene molecule, you're going to call this as cresol. And because here in this case it's in the 1 and 4 position, it's actually called as paracresol. Okay. Naming polysubstituted benzenes. If more than 2 substituents are present, then the substituents are numbered in the direction that results in the lowest possible number. Okay, and also we are going to list the substituents in alphabetical order. Now let's have a look into our first example, which is right here. Okay, so we have a nitro group and we have a bromine and also a chlorine. So which one needs to come first? Obviously it's going to be bromo, but you also needed to make sure that that all the substituents will get the lowest possible number. So the best way to number this one is going to be from here 1, 2, 3, 4, because you always needed to reach the second substituent with the lowest possible number. So when you do that, it's going to be it's going to be 2 bromo and 4 chloro nitrobenzene. Okay, remember they're all listed in alphabetical order, so B comes first and then comes C and then comes N. Okay, let's do 2 more examples. So here is our next example. We again have a chloro group, nitro group, and bromine, but they are actually switched here. So which one is going to be number 1? So you needed to pick one substituent and reach the next substituent with the lowest possible number. Okay, so for this one, you're going to start your number right here and go in the anti-clockwise direction to reach the third substituent. So this compound right here is 4 bromo, 1 chloro, 2 nitrobenzene. Okay, let's do the third example. Again, we have the same groups, but how are we going to number this one? So this is going to be number 1, this is 2, this is 3 and 4, and they all have the lowest possible number. And the name for this is going to be 1 bromo, 4 chloro, 2 nitrobenzene. Okay, let's go on to the incorporated names. If one of the substituents can be incorporated in the name, then the substituent is given position number 1, just as we have seen in the disubstituted benzenes. Okay, so let's find the incorporated compound in here. So right here, it's actually carboxylic acid, right? But when you have a carboxylic acid present on a benzene molecule, then you call it with a special name, which is benzoic acid. Right? So that is obviously going to be number 1. The carbon of the carboxylic acid is going to be number 1, and you go and reach the second substituent with the lowest possible number. So in which way? You cannot go in this direction, because that will actually put the bromine in the 3rd position and the nitro in the 6th position. So it's better to go in the clockwise direction, which is going to put the nitro group in the 2nd position. So the name for this is going to be five bromo, because you're going to list them in alphabetical order, 2-nitrobenzoic acid. Okay, now let's go on to the second compound. Okay, so what is the incorporated molecule in this one? So it's right here. When you have an OH group present on a benzene, it's actually called as phenol, right? So this is going to be position number 1. And which direction are you going to go in here? If you're going to go in this direction, then you'll reach chlorine at the 4th position. And the bromine is going to be at the 5th position, which is going to be having higher number for the substituents, but you wanted to keep the numbers as low as possible. So you will go in the opposite direction, which is the anticlockwise direction. So this is going to be 2, 2, 3, 4, and therefore this is going to be 3 bromo. Again, you're going to list them in alphabetical order. 4 chlorophenol. Now let's go on to our third problem, which is right here. Okay, what's the name for the compound when you have a amino group on a benzene molecule? It's actually called as aniline. Okay, so the structure, this is going to be aniline. So by default, this is going to be position number 1. Okay, and your next substituent is going to be this 3, 4, and therefore this is going to be 2-ethyl, listing them in alphabetical order, 2-ethyl, 4-iodoaniline. And it's definitely assumed that the amino group is in position number 1, so you don't actually give the number for it when you write the name.